What up, good people? So, as you can see, not two, but four people are joining you tonight so that we can discuss lots of wonderful things on the Play Call Sports Talk Show. Got a lot of things going on with the NCAA tournament, men's and women's. So, we'll definitely be diving very deeply into that. Little couple things happening in the NBA. One guy here that might be a little happy right now. I mean, I don't know who, but one guy that might be a little bit happy right now. Also, we'll
You
be
mean the two
talking
guys whose team is the
some
number one
NFL
seed?
news. So we're going through all that, man. And I mean, we could waste time with intros and all that, but we got an hour. We got a jam packed show. So let's just get into it. And as you can see, I'm joined right here on my side by Coach Dante. What's up, Coach Dante?
It was good, man. Thank you for having me a part of the players calls and stuff like that. Shout out to you guys at the bottom, man. Looking forward to keep working with you guys, and I'm happy to be on the show.
Welcome, man.
Yes,
Welcome.
sir. And then, of course, we have the other Denver Nuggets fan here, smart guy here, Jordan Long. What's going on, Jordan?
Not much, man. I'm doing pretty good. I mean, crazy things going on in the NFL, of course. The March Madness. Best time of year, really, as a sports fan.
Yes, sir. Yes, sir. And then, of course, my co-host, as always, sporting a little different look this week. But Stephen Box.
Yeah, man. I'm only partially NFL this week. I'm transitioning to the NBA now. So
That's the type of thing where you just don't even touch it. You just move on and you just gloss over it, guys. The NBA is in the last like under 20 games, and that's due talking about he transitioned to the NBA. But it's okay, man.
best time.
Well, it's just because your Lakers are finally in the 10th spot. I mean, Cool and I have been happy for pretty much the whole season.
Hey, it's
Pretty
the
much,
nice
man.
seat, sir. It's the nice seat. Okay.
What's going on, Jedediah? Thanks for watching, tuning in. We're going to give you a good, juicy show tonight. All right, so, gentlemen, I think where we're going to start is the NFL. It's a lot of interesting things happening into in the NFL. And we'll start with the one that Jedediah is just referring to, and that's his Panthers just got fleeced. So there's a couple of different trains of thoughts on that. I'll give mine last. I'll let you guys go first. So, Couch Coach, I mean, my bad, Coach Dante. I was just talking about Couch Coach before we got on.
He's
Coach
a good
Dante,
guy, though.
he is. What are your thoughts on the Panthers trade?
Well, I feel like the Chicago Bears won the trade. I feel like they got the number one receiver that they was looking for. They also trade down. They have an opportunity to get another wide receiver. I'm not too sold on Chase Claypool. I think Chase Claypool, since his rookie year, has checked out of the NFL, checked out of the league. It's a reason why I call him Finding Nemo, because you can't find him after his rookie year. So I think it's a good chance they can get a wide receiver for Chicago down there at the ninth spot. But I do think they're going to address some other needs because they got the most cap space in the NFL. They took on DJ Moore's contract, which is now they got $70 million. I think they can get an offensive lineman in free agency. I think they can address some other needs, what if it's on a defensive line in the free agency block. So I think they got a heck of a deal up out of this deal. And for the Carolina Panthers, now you don't have a number one wide receiver. You still got LaVisca Chenault over there. But the deal was to go up and get a quarterback. Now, which quarterback would that be? I still think AR-15 is in the discussion. He's been rising up draft board. He's been rising up draft boards as well. But Bryce Young and CJ Stroud, I think those two is in the discussion as well. So we're gonna see what they do with their number one overall pick. But I'm more impressed with the Bears of getting that number one receiver for Justin Fields. They just got to figure out the offensive line, and get them another. I think another wide receiver is needed over there in Chicago.
Jordan, what are your thoughts?
I honestly was not surprised that the Bears traded down. I have a cousin who's a huge Bears fan. I asked him, well, what are you going to do with the number one pick? Trade down. And honestly, it didn't come as a surprise that they trade down. And you look at the Panthers, they do need a quarterback. Could that be Bryce Young or CJ Stroud? Sure. But then if I look at the Bears, where do they go with the ninth pick? Honestly, you got to address the offensive line. Of course, you can do that in free agency. But as we sit here today, I would have to think they would have to go offense tackle. They need somebody to protect Justin Fields. So really, the Bears won this trade. They got the wide receiver they want, and they got a lot of draft picks to use not only this year, but in future drafts, I should say, future drafts. So, I mean, it was a good deal for the Bears. They obviously won this trade.
And before you go, Stephen, just wanted, for those who may not be aware of the compensation, the Bears, of course, traded away the number 1 pick. They did receive pick number 9 from the Panthers, also pick number 61, a first rounder in 2024, a second rounder in 2025, and DJ Moore. So, Stephen, what are your thoughts, man?
Yeah, I'm going to agree with everybody else, man. The Panthers totally got fleeced because, yes, I get it. You're going up and you're going to have your choice of quarterbacks, and that's great. But the Panthers are not a rookie quarterback away from competing. And you just gave up a second rounder this year, a first next year, and then a second the following year. So this is something that's going to hurt you. And you gave up your number 1 receiver. So this is something that's going to actually hurt you for a while going forward. So to me, I don't necessarily understand it. I'm sure we'll talk about the Lamar Jackson situation here in a little bit, and we'll dive more into the details of that. But I'm looking at this from the standpoint of Lamar Jackson's out there for technically 2 first-round draft picks. And you just gave up that, essentially. I mean, you swapped first, but you basically gave up another first and then 2 seconds to go draft a completely unproven rookie quarterback. So to me, not a great deal. It's cool that you get to have your choice of quarterbacks. Personally, I would go CJ Stroud if I'm them. That's the quarterback that I feel is going to be the guy that's most ready to come in and probably start right away. Bryce Young, I like, but not that much. But, some of the other quarterbacks, I got serious question marks about.
Yeah. So I'm going to put this comment up here. Did they though? I want to answer that question from Mr. McCain's monologue. In my opinion, they did not. Because here's the truth, the harsh truth for the NFL. No one wants to really touch the Lamar Jackson situation because they feel like you're just working out the contract for the Ravens to sign. That's why. It's not that he's not a good player. It's not that people don't want him. It's that they know what the Ravens are trying to do, and people are not going to do that legwork for them. So he's not really an option because they're going to match whatever you do, more than likely. Unless you do something just too outrageous, they're going to match it. So that's why people are making other arrangements. As far as we talking about what the Panthers gave up, yeah, you gave up a first this year. Obviously you're going to have to do that. You gave up a first next year. Then you gave up 2 second-round picks as well, and you gave up DJ Moore. But giving up DJ Moore does what? It opens up more cap space. So a lot of people talk about how DJ Moore is the number 1 receiver and blah, blah, blah. Watch Terrence Marshall. That's the part. That's the one that everyone's not watching. I live in Charlotte. The Panthers are on. I see parts of, if not all of their games, but the Eagles are not playing, of course. So I've seen what Terrence Marshall does on the field. There's not a lot of drop off between what DJ Moore brought and what Terrence Marshall is going to give this team and has given this team so far. Another point is there's a lot of guys out there that are available via trade or free agency at the wide receiver position. You can go out and you can get other guys at wide receiver. The one position that you have to secure your future at and have a 4 to 5 year window to actually win a Super Bowl is the quarterback position. You draft the quarterback, you have him on his rookie deal, you make the right decision. If they do, you have the pick of everybody. You make the right decision, you're set for the next 4 to 5 years. You have a window where you can go out and spend money on your defense. You can spend money to bring in other guys to build around him because you're not paying him. This is where the Panthers can now be at. This is also where the Bears are at while they made this trade without a problem. So what I think people need to look at is, yeah, they did give up some assets. But let's be real. The Panthers haven't done amazingly and exceptionally well at drafting anyway. So giving up some picks that you probably were going to screw up at least half of them anyway is not going to hurt the organization that much. But now you can go out and you can bring in free agents this year, next year, the year after that, because you don't have a large cap number at the quarterback position. So that's why the Panthers, even though they gave up a lot, to me, they still have a level of they won this trade as well, because they're going to go and try to get who they believe is going to be a franchise quarterback, something they haven't had since Cam Newton was there.
Well, the only thing I'll really add to that, man, is like, obviously, in order for them to say they won this trade, a couple things has to happen. Number one, whoever they take at number one has to pan out. Number two, you just got through saying that they haven't drafted well. So why should I have any confidence that all the extra cap space and not having to pay a quarterback is going to do them any good? Because if you can't draft well, you're probably not going to go make the right decisions in free agency either.
Well, that's completely 100% false. I'll use my own team as an example. Trash until this past season at drafting, excellent in free agency and managing the cap. That's the same situation that the Panthers are going to be able to be in now.
Well, we'll see, man. I don't have as much confidence in the organization as you do.
I don't have confidence in the organization, but you have really two guys you should be choosing from. You choose the one that's ready now, or you choose the one that you believe is going to be better down the road, or you choose a guy that looked great in shorts and a t-shirt, but hasn't showed you much in the actual games. But honestly, I don't think there's much difference between the latter two. To me, just as you said earlier, CJ Stroud is the guy. He's the one that's going to be the best out of all these guys. You can choose whoever you want because you think maybe with the way you want to play, one of the other guys might be better if you want. But if you don't choose CJ Stroud, you're going to wish that you had chosen him in 2 years, or 1 to 2 years. You're going to wish that that's the guy you had chosen. So if you have number one, you don't get him, you're going to wish you had chosen him. My man, Coach Dante, is sitting here at number 2, like, hey, whichever one is left.
You're in a perfect position. Whichever one is left, whichever one's left, we waiting. We right there. We waiting in the window. We creeping in the window. So we in a perfect spot. We in a perfect spot.
You are.
I will say that as a Florida State fan, and my wife is a Gator fan, so I've seen a lot of Florida football games. Draft Anthony Richardson if you want to. You will be doing your franchise.
And my other thing is, if you moved up from number 9 to draft Anthony Richardson, you really, really, really are in trouble, because he would have been there at 9. I don't think he would have not been there at 9. So he would have been there. He definitely. You only moved up to get Bryce Young or CJ Stroud. That's the only reason you move up. Now, another twist on this, which is really funny, is the Panthers are now open to trading the picks.
What, they want more draft picks? I mean, of course they would.
I know you want to come up. I know it's 2 teams that may want to come up to get a quarterback.
The other 2,
the Raiders or the Colts. Those are the only 2 teams, that want to come up now to get a quarterback. Now it's open to be traded. Those are the only 2 teams that can want to come up and get a quarterback.
Right, and it makes sense. But do they want to give up that much capital? But I mean, hey, if you're the Panthers, you're sitting pretty right now if you're going to trade it.
Panthers out here like flipping houses, right? Like flipping
right.
It's like houses.
That's crazy. Jedi says, I just hope whoever we draft is for the long haul, time to begin year 9 of the rebuild. That's tough. That's tough. That is tough. So, Stephen, you mentioned this earlier. We're going to let you start with this one. So talk to us about your thoughts on the Lamar Jackson situation. You know what? If there's any other NFL news that you want to kind of sprinkle in with there that you have some thoughts on, man, feel free. The floor is yours.
Yeah, so a couple of things. So we'll talk about the Lamar situation first, right? I posted this on my wall the other day. I think that it was the absolute right decision if you're Baltimore, because what you did was you told Lamar, we don't think that you're worth what you're asking, at least maybe like the guaranteed money or whatever. We don't know for sure what exactly the holdup is. That's what we've heard. We haven't heard any denial of that. So we have to at least, I'm assuming that might be the actual thing. But at the end of the day, what they're doing is they're saying, you know what? You go out there and you talk to other people and you see if somebody else will offer you this. Now, of course, it's a bit of a poison pill because, as my co-host also pointed out, the Ravens know that no one's going to touch this. Because here's the problem. Let's say you're the Jets and you feel like you're a quarterback away. Are you going to offer Lamar a contract? The Ravens then decide to take their full 5 days decide they're going to match it. And by that point, Aaron Rodgers got traded somewhere. Jimmy Garoppolo is gone. And now you're bringing in Marcus Mariota to be your quarterback this year, right? Is that the situation you want to find yourself in the Jets? No, it is not, right? So you're going to go ahead and do what you have to do to get Aaron Rodgers or whatever. I mean, I don't even know who else they can really get at this point, right? But the thing is, the Ravens were very smart in the way they actually went about handling this. Now, the only place this could potentially backfire on them is Lamar may get in his feelings about it. They may match the deal. He may say, you know what, screw you guys. I'm not playing for you. You didn't want to pay me. I don't want to be here. And guess what? They're going to trade him for a boatload of picks. There is no losing scenario in Baltimore because even if somebody else offers to pay him what he wants, they still ultimately had a right to say, okay, we'll give you that. If they decide not to get you first. And don't forget, they actually do have the ability to take whatever compensation they want. They do not have to take those two first. So if a team comes along that doesn't have a first, they can accept other compensation.
And it makes a lot of sense. I do think that now the Ravens are saying it's either us or you can go and find a different situation. But like Steven was saying, who that other team's going to be, we don't know because you're right. The Jets wait. They're not going to get Aaron Rodgers. They might end up with Marcus Mariota. The thing I look at is the Ravens are saying, you know what, go ahead, see what you can get in the open market. But the fact of the matter is we'll get draft picks. So really, this is the Ravens sitting pretty much because they know they're going to get draft picks. For Lamar Jackson, he wants to get paid. It's just a matter of will the open market allow that because quarterbacks are getting a ridiculous amount of money, or are the Ravens going to pay up?
This is like I say again, it makes it more difficult because Lamar Jackson doesn't have an agent and he is own agent. But at the end of the day, I mean, his health plays a big role in this. So like I say, I mean, I believe like I've been on the Cubs. I'm saying I believe Lamar Jackson should have been paid by the Baltimore Ravens. They didn't have the weapons around them. They didn't have the weapons around them at all. Their defense was on the field so much because of the lack of weapons. Plus, you're relying on just one thing: beating your team in a run game. When you're playing against an elite football team, teams are going to know how to stop that. They're going to know how to stop your running game. So, again, Lamar Jackson has been unhealthy, and one of the reasons why they use him so heavily in part of the run game, and you don't got no receivers on the outside. He's out there killing himself. People out there beating him up because he has to be the full package of the offense. So I think it's a team out there that's gonna eventually take a chance on him. But I think the Ravens need to sign Lamar Jackson back. They need to find a way to match that offer sheet because they will be starting all over again. This is a guy. Since he's been on your team, he's been an MVP and he has led you to the playoffs consistently. He has led you to the playoff consistently. He also hasn't had the best of wide receivers. You mean to tell me on the outside, somebody's scared of Marcus Robinson and old Deshaun Jackson and messed up Watkins? You mean to tell me someone got to be scared of that? Now you got a dog in J.K. Dobbins, but at the end of the day, like I said, great teams are going to better stop that. So I think the Ravens definitely need to pay him, but it is harder. It is harder when you don't have an agent. And when you're your own agent, and then they're going to go back on your injury history, that's going to shy away from a lot of teams.
So let me ask you a real quick question, Coach Dante. So the Ravens to this point have consistently been in the playoffs, but have not won anything with Lamar, right? And it's not all on Lamar. It's because the Ravens have failed to put stuff around him. I completely agree with you. But if you couldn't even put stuff around Lamar when he was on a more friendly contract, you pay him, and now you have no money to put anything around him. How is that a good idea?
But I'd rather have a franchise quarterback. I'd rather have my franchise quarterback. You don't have to put I'm not saying putting superstars around them. You don't have to be a superstar to go to a championship or have a playoff team. Just having a quarterback alone keeps you competitive. If you put the right piece around Lamar, he can make it work. He's that good of a quarterback. He's an MVP caliber quarterback. And you got a solid defense. You got David Ajabo coming back next year on that defensive line. So you got a good enough defense when you have a healthy Lamar Jackson to compete with the Kansas City Chiefs and all of that. You just need to get some wide receivers, some pass catchers around him instead of having Mark Andrews be the only one out there, and you have to have teams to double him because nobody else can't get open and open up the field. So I believe having that quarterback keeps you going along, keeps the organization afloat along, just having that franchise type quarterback.
So for me, it's very simple. Lamar Jackson drew a line in the sand. The Ravens went right over and drew that same line over that line. The Ravens side is, we're not giving you a completely guaranteed contract. We'll give you the bread, but it's going to be something that works for what we want to do. Lamar Jackson, whatever it is that he wants, they're not willing to pay whatever that is. Whether that's the fully guaranteed or not, whatever it is he wants, they're not willing to pay. So they've got to find a way to either come to the same side or honestly, it's going to have to be a sign and trade, right? No one else is going to touch it unless they know he's coming there, right? If he goes somewhere and the Ravens say, look, y'all negotiate the contract, forget the 2 picks, we want more, and we'll sign him for you, and then we'll trade him to you. I think those are the real only 2 ways that this happens. They either sign him or they do a sign and trade somewhere. I don't think anybody's just going to sign him, do all the work for the Ravens, and then have them swoop in at the last minute and take it. I think that's really what the holdup is. So, guys, we'll start this one with Jordan. Let's talk about Aaron Rodgers. Let's talk about any of the releases that you think are interesting, and any thoughts that you have on the people that were actually franchised. So, Jordan, we'll start with you.
So if you're looking at the Aaron Rodgers situation, I think honestly there's going to be a divorce between him and the Packers. It's just inevitable. I think he's going to end up probably going to the Jets. It makes the most sense because they want a franchise quarterback. But if you're looking at the cuts, honestly, I was really kind of surprised that Adam Thielen got cut by the Vikings. You know, this is a guy that can be a number 1 or 2 wide receiver on your team, 2 seasons of 1,000+ receiving yards, and he's totaled 6,682 receiving yards and 55 touchdowns in his career. Someone's going to pay. As for the franchise tags, I'm not surprised that Tony Pollard, Josh Jacobs, as well as Saquon Barkley all got franchised. I was hoping they wouldn't because they're all great runners. I was hoping that teams wouldn't franchise him so the Broncos could get him, because that was on my wish list for the Denver Broncos. The one guy that I was surprised that got franchised was Evan Ingram. You don't really see tight ends getting franchised, but he did have a career high with 73 receptions for 766 yards with the Jacksonville Jaguars.
All right. Steven, what about you?
Yeah, for me, you know, I think, and looking at the franchise tag, I'm more surprised by some of the people that weren't tagged more so than some of the people that were. You know, I know there's a lot of conversation around, you know, Daniel Jones' contract and everything, but people have to realize the Giants were a little bit desperate to get a job done or to get a contract done because they wanted to be able to tag Saquon. That was very important to them to be able to do. So I understand why they did that. And we'll, you know, we could talk a little bit more about that contract. I don't think it's nearly as outrageous as a lot of people seem to think it is. But, you know, we can kind of break that down. But, you know, I know me and Cool talked about, you know, the Eagles not throwing the tag on CJ Garner. And, you know, I know you weren't happy about that. I'm a little surprised that they didn't. You know, one of the best, you know, nickel corners out there. So a little bit of a shocking move to me. A move that we could still see, but I'm surprised we haven't seen anything yet, is there's been no real talk, at least that I've seen, maybe I've missed something, about the Cowboys moving on from Zeke, either restructuring his contract or cutting him. And I'm really shocked by that.
So I'll tell you what you got.
The release, like I said, the kind of release, I kind of agree with Steven. on for us to release, but I'm gonna go with I still think Bobby Wagner can play in this league. I just think the Los Angeles Rams were just a dumpster fire all year long. They get ready to come off Jalen Ramsey. I wouldn't be surprised if Bobby Wagner reunite with the Seattle Seahawks. And it's been going on. Frank Clark very much reunite over there with Seattle, but I think Bobby Wagner still can be a leader of the defense. I just think the Rams had a Super Bowl hangover. They just got too much in a dumpster fire. They lost Matthew Stafford, which is they weren't making the playoffs anyway. And the franchise tag, CJ Gardner Johnson. I don't know how the hell the Eagles can possibly let this man get out of there. This man was very consistent from him all year long. I think he had the most interceptions in the league out of all the safeties last year. The man made play after play after play for the Philadelphia Eagles. But you mean to tell me you're on the verge of losing him, and now it's a possibility you can trade you Darius Slay. It's a possibility you can lose your safety and your corner and all basically your whole secondary. You can lose your whole secondary. Bradbury, you can lose him too. So I don't understand why they didn't type of franchise tag him. And then Evan Ingram. Tight ends don't normally get franchise tag, but he had a great season last year. And another one I want to throw out there, Josh Jacobs. He was the best running back, down there, the best running back in the league last year. And he got the franchise tag. So I'm a little shocking on that one that the Raiders didn't want to come out. You can always say he was one of most of the reason why they won last year, why they won the most of the games that they won last year.
Yeah, I'll definitely say that the Chauncey Gardner-Johnson shocked me. I think that when looking at the cap, the only thing I can think of is maybe because of the current cap situation, you didn't want to throw the franchise tag in there, not still kind of working on a deal for Jalen Hurts. If you ask me if I have to pick between making sure we get a contract done for Jalen Hurts or Chauncey Gardner-Johnson, unfortunately, I got to get that contract done for Jalen Hurts. I would like to have both, but to be honest, Jalen Hurts is the main focus. I think that we still have some time to negotiate with him because he can't sign anything with anybody else until the 15th. So we still got some days. Hopefully, they're working on something. I know we've been restructuring some contracts to try to get some more cap space. But my hope is that we try to work something out with him, or at least there's an agreement in place where, hey, whatever I go get on the market, I'll bring to you. You want to match it, cool. If not, I'm out. I'm just hoping that there's something there because I really don't want him to get out of the building. But I do understand at the end of the day, it is a business. Same thing for all the other guys that weren't franchise tags. Sometimes the business just doesn't work. The running backs that were franchise tagged, I'm not surprised about any of them because I expected all of them to be. So no real shock or anything for me there either. When you look at some of the the releases, man, there really wasn't one that I was like, oh, I had no idea that was coming. I think we really understand it's money. All the stuff is money. You've got to get some money off the books. You've got to have room to even have the cap to sign your draft picks and everything. So I think it's just one of those situations where you had to make moves. Guys don't want to take pay cuts sometimes. So, hey, if you don't want to take a pay cut, you're going to get cut or traded. And I think that's where a lot of people are at now. We're going to hear a lot more of this happening in the next week or so as well as we get prepared for free agency. So, a lot going on in the NFL. We could spend 2 hours talking about that, but this is not a 2-hour show, right? And we still got to get to some meat and potatoes here. So first, I think we should hop over and just, quickly discuss the NBA. Any glaring topics or anything you guys want to talk about in regards to NBA? Coach Dante, we'll start with you.
Yeah, man. I want to talk about the Sacramento Kings and how well they played this year, man. You got to just give some credit to Coach Mike Brown, how disciplined his team is, how well coached his team is. They can run up and down the floor. Sabonis, how good he's been. Look like the trade kind of we all thought Tyrese Halliburton going to the Pacers was a terrible trade, but you look at it, you're thinking about it. It was good on both sides now because the Kings are down there in the second seed. They're tied for the second seed with the Memphis Grizzlies. Sabonis down there a double. He's a double machine. He can pass the ball. He can make teammates better. De'Aaron Fox is just on another level. Got the rookie Keegan Murray playing well. Got them playing great defense. And this team has the longest, before the Minnesota Timberwolves, they had the longest playoff drought. They haven't made the playoffs since 2005, 2006. And it's good to see this Kings team back in the playoff picture. And you got to give credit to Coach Mike Brown, how well they built this organization, how disciplined he is as a head coach, getting these players to buy in, and he's been a part of that winning championship culture type of team. He led LeBron James to I think he led LeBron James to an NBA Finals. He's been to an NBA Finals with the Golden State Warriors, so he knows what it's like to win. And again, I got to give him credit. Got to throw that out there, man. This man needs credit for how this Kings team is developed and how well they're doing.
Fair enough, Jordan. What you got?
Well, you look at the Phoenix Suns, a team that they are a top 4 seed, of course, but the problem is they got Kevin Durant in the trade deadline, and now he's out 2 to 3 weeks. And I know we talked about it last week that he doesn't play defense, but still, that's going to hurt their scoring ability because now you're just going to have Devin Booker as well as Chris Paul lead the offense. Kevin Durant did something in practice, and now he's out 2 to 3 weeks. If I'm looking at them, that's going to hurt their chances of even advancing or even moving up a seed. The thing is, though, I would have to agree that the Sacramento Kings, what a great story it's been for them. I mean, this is a team that hasn't been in the playoffs and has the longest NBA playoff drought, and they're playing well. Sabonis definitely is a double-double machine every night, but I have to also say I'm sick and tired of people, and we talked about it last week, downgrading the Nuggets because we haven't done it in the playoffs. I'm sick and tired of it. What more do we need to prove? Yes, we have the number 1 seed. We're 2 games out of the first overall seed in the NBA playoffs. That has to tell you something about how good this team is. The thing is, though, we know the playoffs are a different animal, but we proved that we can beat anybody. We just have to do it in the playoffs. Like I said last week, my goal for this team is the Western Conference Finals. I want to win an NBA championship, but that's the goal first, is get to the Western Conference Finals. If you can do that and have home court, especially having Game 7 in Ball Arena where they're 30-5 this year, that's really going to make a difference for this team to actually go out and say, let's go ahead and go to the NBA Finals and ultimately win it if we have home court advantage throughout the playoffs.
Yeah, for me, we talked about it last week, right? The Eastern Conference it's 2 teams, right? There's really just not much to discuss when it comes to the Eastern Conference in my mind. I mean, there's a couple teams that are interesting just to see what they do, but ultimately, we're kind of focused on who's going to make the playoffs and what they're going to do. And the Eastern Conference is 2 teams. It's all that really matters. The West is just, I don't know, man. It's like, I mean, you got the Nuggets, right? Obviously sitting at 1. The Kings, like we said, it's a good story. They're doing their thing. They're sitting at 2. After that, man, it's just like a bunch of dumpster fires. I mean, it is just crazy what's going on. But the thing is, all those teams have talent, and if they get hot, they can actually win. That's what's crazy about it. I mean, the Grizzlies, we don't know what's going on with Ja right now, right? I mean, there's something going on there, obviously. Phoenix, they got one half of the Street Clothes tag team champions and Kevin Durant, the Clippers.
You gotta say 6-man champions because you cannot leave Zion out of that.
That's true.
It is true. That is true. The triple threat. Then you got the Clippers. The Agent Russ factor is in full effect for the Clippers right now. The Warriors cannot win on the road to save their life. The Timberwolves they're the Timberwolves. We do really need to discuss that. And the Lakers are winning right now. They're looking good. Anthony Davis is dominant. And every Lakers fan, every time that he rolls an ankle, goes down the wrong way, holds our breath. Because we know that any play, it could happen. And then the Mavs. I mean, look, Cole called it when the trade happened. They might score 120 points a game, and they'll give up 130 if they do.
Absolutely, man. For me, Gotta shout out the Milwaukee Bucks. I mean, 18-game winning streak. That's big. That's something that's difficult to do. They took an L. They came back the next game, and somebody else got whipped, and they've been whipping the tail again since then. And I mean, that's the mark of a team that wants to go deep, right? Hey, you don't win all the games. It's an 82-game season. You're not winning all of them. You won 18 in a row. You lost one. I mean, they're winning games when Giannis doesn't play. They're winning games when he does play. So they're having a lot of other guys step up. They're getting Chris Middleton whipped back into shape. So I'm excited to see, because I felt like, truth be told, they back to back if Chris Middleton doesn't get hurt last year. My opinion, you got to agree with it, but look at the facts. And also out west, I'm excited about the race for 6 through 10. I'm interested to see where everybody ends up there. Who's going to be the one that gets themselves out of the play-in, and then who are going to be the other guys that are going to be stuck in the play-in. So that's kind of, for me, what's interesting out west. And what's going on, Snowman? Thanks for hopping on and checking us out. But yeah, so I mean, there's a lot we could talk about in the NBA. We got to leave some time here because we got some juicy stuff to talk about here with this NCAA tournament. So, gentlemen, what do you want to talk about?
Well, man, you guys are the NCAA college experts, man. So I'm gonna switch over and I'm gonna play MC for a little bit and let y'all do all the talking. So cool, man. Let's you haven't really said a whole lot tonight. Let's start with you, man. What are your thoughts on the conference tournaments? Any real surprises for you? Anything stand out?
So I'll actually start with the women, right? Because I want to make sure that women, the separation from men, you don't want to shove it all together. It's not how it works. For me, there haven't been a lot of surprises because we have a lot of really, good teams in women's that have separated themselves, right? You look at some of the tournaments like the American East, Vermont. It was pretty much a given that they would win. We could go through a bunch of them. East Carolina with the AAC, Virginia Tech with the ACC, right? I mean, there were a couple of the teams that you looked at in the ACC like maybe they could win. We're talking about looking at one that you're thinking like, oh, maybe it's a little bit of an upset. You look at the Big South with the women. You talk about Gardner-Webb. We knew Iowa was going to win the Big Ten, right? There's so many to go through. We do have 2 other gentlemen to go, so I'm not going to do them all. Horizon League, Cleveland State. A little bit of a surprise, but still not completely a shock. And of course, you've got your givens like the SEC. Come on now, we already know. I don't think South Carolina's going to lose a game this year, right? I think they could walk in half-head and beat everybody. I don't think there's anybody that stands up to South Carolina women's basketball. Dawn Staley's a monster. She's got some of the most powerful women, we're going to say, because I'm not going to disrespect them like some people do, even jokingly. But she's got some women out there that are some dogs just like the men, and they don't take any prisoners and they don't play any games. So I'm just very excited to see the rest of the tournaments wrap up. We still have quite a bit of tournaments for women's that'll be wrapping up tomorrow, as well as men's that'll be wrapping up, tonight, tomorrow, and Saturday. So we'll have all the bids and everything next week. But yeah, man, really excited about what I'm seeing from the women's side of things. And I'm just hyped because they're actually getting the opportunity and they're doing it in a way where they're spreading the games out. We're not going to have a South Carolina women playing at the same time that Duke men's are playing, right? You're going to spread it out and kind of fill those gaps with women, those days that the men are not playing. So you're getting a constant flow of solid basketball, whether it be men's or women's. Make sure you check it all out.
Coach Dante, what about you? Any surprises so far?
Yeah, my surprise was kind of Virginia Tech winning the ACC title. But Notre Dame was vulnerable when their guard went down, Olivia Miles. They became vulnerable when she went down. She's the heart and soul of the team. She's one of the top point guards in the country. Also, I thought North Carolina had a good shot of winning, had a good shot of having an upset. But I think it's some really stuff going on in North Carolina, going on in that campus.
Men and women's, right?
Yeah, on both sides. I think some stuff going on. We'll get to the men's side when we get that. But I thought they was a dark horse. But I'm shocked in Virginia Tech, man. They went on. They played some good basketball. Iowa is really good. Caitlin Clark, this girl is the truth. She's the truth. She's real. She's the real deal, and she has a whole nother year next year, and she's gonna be. After Leah Boston leaves, she's gonna be no doubt the best player in college basketball next year. After Leah Boston,
off the rip,
she's gonna be off the rip. No, with nobody, she's gonna be unstoppable force. But I thought Indiana could have competed with them for the Big Ten title. I thought that was the second. I thought that was the best team in the Big Ten conference. But Caitlin Clark, those Iowa Hawkeyes, they can really shoot the ball. Caitlin Clark can really distribute the ball, really rebound. They got some shooters on that team that's hard to cover. And again, no doubt in the SEC, I mean, it was just a runaway all year long. The closest team was basically, if you look at Tennessee or LSU, that was a toss up between second place. And everybody, those two teams, everybody else was just chasing. That was it. But no doubt, that was SEC. It was just runaway from the start with South Carolina. And yeah, man. I mean, but surprise is Virginia Tech, man, winning the ACC title. When Olivia Miles went down for Notre Dame, that kind of hurt Notre Dame really, really bad.
Yeah, that's why I wasn't that surprised about it, just because of what happened there. But yeah, I mean, if we're talking about one in the big conferences, that's probably one you'd have to say.
Yeah.
So Jordan, anything to stand out for you on the women's side?
Well, yeah, I mean, you look at Washington State winning the Pac-12 tournament. I mean, we know how good Stanford basketball is in the women. I honestly thought that the University of Colorado as a 3 seed, I thought they were going to actually win it once Stanford went down, but they kind of laid an egg against Washington State, and Washington State is a 7 seed, and they ended up winning the whole tournament. No one expected that, so they get the automatic bid. I think that's really going to ultimately hurt Colorado, because the last I looked, they might have been hosting the region, but now with that loss, they were 4, now they're a 5 seed, so that definitely hurt them.
Okay. And what about on the men's side?
Honestly, there's not a whole lot of surprises, although, I mean, I'm going to say Gonzaga is a little bit of a surprise. I know that's silly to say, but they weren't even the number 1 seed in their tournament. They had to beat Mount St. Mary's to get in there. But if you look at the Northeast, it was Farley Dickinson, and the only reason why they got in is because the team that they played, Marmac, isn't even eligible for the NCAA tournament. So it's kind of, you lost your tournament, but yeah, you still got in. It's just kind of a weird kind of situation there.
Cool. You look like you got some thoughts you ready to share.
I don't. Go ahead, Coach Dante.
I thought he was going to talk about North Carolina. Again, North Carolina. This is another thing, not too much. I'm not going to hop on to. All I was going to say about North Carolina, that Caleb Love forgot he had teammates, forgot he was playing. He thought he was playing by himself with that performance that he put up yesterday against Virginia. 3 for 15, really. Caleb Williams, I told you, there was some stuff going on in now. But again, I don't think they deserve to make the tournament. I think they had to win the ACC tournament to get in. But we'll see what the committee say. Missouri is on a good run. Missouri is really on a good run. They're really on a good run. They got a big win against Tennessee today. They're really on a good run. I think Miami. I got Miami winning the ACC title. I got them winning the ACC title. The Big 12. That's the best That's been the best conference. Grind out conference all season long. Wouldn't be surprised if my Longhorn gets beat by TCU tonight. And I wouldn't be surprised if Kansas go down as well. That's how good the Big 12 is. The Big 10. The Big 10 conference. You got Purdue. You got Purdue over there. You got the Michigans over there. And Rutgers had a pretty good season, but they got put out by Purdue. And no, Houston is the best team in their conference. I think Memphis could give them a run. I think Memphis is the only team that probably can give them a run with their guard play. They got some solid guards, but I mean, again, North Carolina's been the talk of the year. North Carolina pretty much has been the most disappointing team of this whole entire season, man. I don't know what the hell went on with them. And Caleb Love just just a disappointment. And he doesn't play basketball the right way. I just don't like the way he plays basketball. He plays selfish basketball a lot. He got the green light. He gets green lighted, but he don't make the shots. He doesn't make his shots. RJ Davis seems like a solid guard that's more consistent, but Caleb Love continues to hurt North Carolina as a point guard, and that's one thing that's wrong with North Carolina, and they do not deserve to make the NCAA tournament. They do not deserve to be in. I think they have to win the ACC title at least to qualify.
Nothing that Coach Dante said about Carolina is incorrect. I would add, I hope that Caleb Love leaves. I know he has another year of eligibility, but I hope and pray that he goes to the NBA so that we can get the team back moving in the right direction. Last year, Caleb Love played team basketball, and that's why we were as good as we were. We don't really have a starting point guard. Our starting point guard is sitting on the bench, learning, and is going to take over next year, hopefully, in Seth Trimble. The guys that we have out there playing point guard right now, the guy in Caleb Love is not a true point guard, and it's killing the team when he decides to go off and do his own thing. His basketball IQ has dwindled over the last year. From this time last year to now, what we see now, this is not the same player, and it's disappointing. When you have a game that's winnable, even if you're down, you don't just start pulling up threes. You drive the ball to the goal. And Caleb Love, you want to be the star player, but you're not even making free throws in the clutch. We missed 5 free throws in the critical portion of that game. Had we had those makes, and these are guys that can make free throws, if they had made all those free throws, we would have been ahead of the game at the time that we just started chunking up threes. So this is what I will say, and this is not me being a homer. This is me watching what has happened in the past in the NCAA tournament. Joe Lunardi and everybody comes out and they say, oh, this team is in the second 4 out and they're not going to make it. And then they somehow weasel their way into the tournament, right?
Yep.
And then, people were talking on shows last night I saw, and people were talking to Chad. So, there's no way Carolina's going to make it. Don't do that. And I'm not saying – I don't want them to make it. So let me make that clear. I don't want them to make it. I think the way that they played this year, they deserve to sit at home and not go. I think that if I was them – the NIT berth that you should get, I wouldn't even take. I just stay at home. Why go to the NIT? It's not even worth it. But for me, you got to look at a couple of different things. We're getting a lot of teams that people are anticipating making the tournament anyway, winning their conferences, right? So that's going to take that bubble and it's going to move it back in favor of some of those teams that are on the outside of the bubble, right? ACC tournament, for instance, Big 12, Big 10, a lot of these tournaments, they're being won by teams that you anticipated winning anyway. What hurts teams that are on their bubble is when teams start winning that shouldn't win, because that decreases that bubble. That bubble's expanding to allow more people to get in right now. So I think there's several scenarios where Carolina could get in as a low seed. Again, do I think they deserve it? No. But there have been teams in the past. Every year there's 2 to 3 teams where we say there's no way this team should have got in over this 3 or 4 or 5 teams. So it can happen. If it does happen, unfortunately, I'm a fan. I have to cheer for them. But I don't think that they're constituted to be able to win a championship this year or make a great run, because the one player that you need to be playing sensible team basketball has for some reason decided to go in business for himself, and that's Caleb Love. Armando Bacot is hurt. That was a big difference in the game as well, because we could not play big. We had to play with Pete Nance at the 5, and we had to play with Leaky Black and other guys out of position because of the injury to Bacot. He couldn't really go. He tried. He just didn't have it in him. He hurt his ankle the game before. I wanted him to sit in. They put him back in. They had him play. I knew that when they did that we were probably going to have this outcome in this game, because I know how Caleb Love plays. And Bacot's the one guy that looks at him and says, give me the effing ball, and he gives him the ball. He's the one guy that walks up to him and says, if you don't give me the ball, I'm going to knock you out. And he gives him the ball. So with him out of the situation, everybody else is a little bit nicer. So that's a problem. And then last thing, I want this to be a Carolina show, RJ Davis. Without RJ Davis, there's no chance for Carolina to win last night. And I hope he does come back. for his senior year because I want to see him lead the young guys without the clamps of his selfish backcourt mate there. So that's what I'm looking forward to moving forward. I'm already in next year mode for Carolina because they've blown it this year. Like I said, there's a high probability, a lot more than people want to give, that they'll end up sliding in as one of those last 12 seeds because they'll take all the low conferences and put them in 16 through 14, and then they may get in as like a 13 or a 12. I don't think they deserve it again, so I want to make sure everybody's clear on that. I've said it like 3 or 4 times, and I'll say it 3 or 4 more times. But you have to look at the committee, and you have to look at what they do. They have the 44th ranked team going into it. They won a game in their tournament. They'll use all kind of crap when they want to put somebody in. So don't be surprised if they get in. But if they don't get in, do not come to my Facebook. Do not come to my Instagram. Do not come to my Twitter and start tagging me talking about Carolina didn't get in. Do not do it. And if they get in, I won't be on yours tagging you saying, "Oh, see, they got in." And that's all I got to say about that.
Anybody else wish we knew how cool feeling about North Carolina this year?
I wish. I mean, my CU Buffalo's men's basketball team was horrible this year. So I wish I could feel his pain and be like, oh, yeah, we were great. And then we kind of laid an egg this year. I wish I could say that, but CU was just terrible this year. Actually, all of Colorado basketball was in men's.
Hey, I don't even know how bad y'all were, but I'll swap with you. Because my Knowles were beyond horrible. They don't even deserve to be able to play basketball on PlayStation right now.
You got one good win this year. That was against Miami. That was Miami was your best win this year when y'all beat Miami.
It was almost the only win.
Yep.
Okay, so I don't feel as bad. I just know the CU men. I mean, they're a young team, so maybe there's a little bit of hope. But I mean, at least I was better than Florida State, so that makes me feel a little better.
I had to go look at our record. I think we only won like 6 or 7 games the whole season.
So I'm sitting here complaining about 14, 15 wins. So
it was horrible. So Coach Dante, I'm going to put you on the spot here a little bit. Can you give us who you think your 1 seeds are going to be in both the women's and the men's?
Tough. It's this one tough because I don't feel like it in men's basketball. I don't feel like it's a dominant team. I just really don't feel like it's a sure dominant team. You got that in college in women's basketball by far. It's South Carolina. They're the most dominant team in college. In college NCAA, they're gonna take over that for another about 3-4 years. As long as Dawn stay there, you want to continue to have the best recruiting class. But for the men's, I don't feel like it's no dominant squad, but your 1 seed, whoever comes up out of the Big 12, out of Kansas or Texas, you got a 1 seed right there. I think if Miami can somehow win the ACC, I think they can emerge as a definite 1 seed. Alabama is definitely a 1 seed. Houston is a 1 seed. Whoever comes up out of the Big 12 is a 1 seed. I think you can argue with that. It's a 1 seed, but I think my Longhorns going to be more of like a 2 seed in the region. I don't think it's too many. You got Purdue. Purdue could be a 1 seed. Purdue can possibly be a 1 seed in their region. So those are the 1 seeds I think that could really happen. It's really tough in men's basketball because you don't really got a dominant team. It's not that dominant. Not really that dominant. They've been like that all year. One been swapping all year long. Whoever goes up number 1 the next week, they go down the very next week. Someone else will come up. But Houston definitely automatic 1 seed. Alabama, for sure, that's a 1 seed. Whoever win the Big 12, 1 seed. I think Purdue gets a 1 seed. Marquette, I think Marquette gets 2. Marquette probably gets a 2 seed. Does enough to be a 2 seed. So women's, you got Iowa. We're not going to even count. We're not going to even count South Carolina. We're not there. They're out of the picture. We're not going to even count them. But you do got Iowa. You got possibility Indiana. As a 1 seed over there. So those are my for sure 1 seeds in college in women's basketball
What about you, Jordan?
So if you're looking at the number 1 seeds in men's, honestly, you've got Kansas. That's assuming they win the Big 12 conference. Alabama, we already know, is probably going to be a 1 seed. Same with Houston. I think the surprise might be UCLA because a lot of people have been down on UCLA in the men, but I said it last week, they're number 1 seed. Now, if you look at the women's, I mean, yeah, you have South Carolina, Indiana. I think the loss, though, with Stanford in the Pac-12 still may hurt them, but I still think they're going to be a number 1 seed. And then Virginia Tech would be my 4 number 1 seeds in the women.
Okay. What about you, Cole?
You got to find a way to slide Stanford in there. Stanford, you got to give them a number 1 seed, right? Even though they lost in their tournament, Stanford has been one of the most dominant teams this season. I think you can slide any one of those out besides South Carolina. You slide Stanford in, and I'm good. I mean, I don't really disagree with anybody on the list, but you just got to find a way to put Stanford over one of those teams because, like I said, they have a dynamic duo on their own. And Steph's god sister and her partner in crime. So they've got some talent there as well. That's a team that's been around for a while. They won a championship a couple of years ago. You know, the last team besides South Carolina to win one. But they're not going to win one this year, but they have the probability to be a number 1 seed. What you have to look out for in women's college basketball, this happens a lot more than men's. You get 2 teams that really should be number 1s ending up in the same bracket. And they normally do the messed up thing of putting them in the bracket with South Carolina. So you'll get a team that you could argue would be number 1, i.e. Stanford. Perfect example. They may not get a number 1, but I feel like should. And you end up putting them in the bracket with with South Carolina. If you put the other 15 teams that you put in that bracket with South Carolina, I'm sorry, ladies. You know that there's a point where you're going to catch an L. Because if you go up against the buzzsaw that is the University of South Carolina women's basketball, you are not going to survive because it's just what it is. They're better than you and you know it. So that's my thoughts on women's college basketball. We'll go over the brackets. We'll talk about it next week. Everything will be out. But at the end of the day, women's basketball is completely different from men's. Women's basketball, there's South Carolina. There's another group of about 4 or 5 teams, and then there's everybody else under them. So being there's South Carolina, there's a group of 4 or 5 teams. At least one of those teams is not going to be on 1 seed, and they're going to end up in the division with South Carolina again, just like they did last year.
And what's so bad and what's so dominant about South Carolina? They don't even shoot the ball well. They don't even shoot it that well.
The defense is just staggering.
Zaya Cook is their best shooter on the team. You know how they beat you? They beat you with defense and pounding the boards, rebounding. With Cardoza and Aaliyah Boston are the 2 most dominant forces that can play in the paint. They got size. They play great defense. They don't even shoot it well. That's how dominant they are inside with those 2 dominant forces inside the paint. When you can take over a game, offensive rebounding and being able to defend and getting second chance points, that wear down on the opposing team offensive coming down trying to put up points on the board. So that's what they don't in this tournament, they don't even have to shoot well. They're just gonna beat you up on the boards and shut you down on the defensive side and force you to turn the ball over.
So you mean to tell me, Coach Dante, they had the same play style that Dean Smith and Roy Williams used to have back in the day when Carolina was successful. When they actually did the 2 bigs.
Yep.
I completely agree. It's a formula that will never go out of style.
Final question for you guys. So it seems like you're all pretty much in on South Carolina winning on the women's side. So I'm going to ask, who do you think would have the best chance of knocking them out? And then on the men's side, I know you all said there's not really a true front runner, but who's that team that you think might be able to get hot and run through on the men's side?
I'd say the women's side, if Iowa gets hot, they could be a team to look out for. On the men's side, it's so wide open. It just depends on what side of the bracket you're on, because if you're on UCLA's bracket, they're a team to be reckoned with. I think Alabama and Houston, they can go down. Watching UCLA, even if they're a 2 seed, they're one of those teams that can shoot lights out. They can play great defense. They've done it in the Pac-12 conference all year, but it's just a matter of who can beat them. And once you get into this tournament, anyone can beat anybody.
All right, Coach Dante.
On the women's side, the best chance I think that can beat UConn. I think it's two teams that can beat South Carolina. I think it's two teams that can do it. I think UConn can do it. I think UConn has an opportunity to do it. And I'm going to go with Stanford. With their duo, Cameron Britt and Haley Jones. I think those two are the best options. I think as far as UConn, the only thing they played them early in the year. So when you got a solid, good coach, great coach like Gino is that knows how to adjust in critical situations, I think he can definitely figure out. The problem is they will be overmatched in size, and that would hurt them the first game. They're going to be a better shooting team than South Carolina. The problem is what happens if those shots are not falling. Then South Carolina is going to physically dominate them on the boards, and they're going to get second chance points as long as that duo Cordova and Aaliyah Boston on the floor together. They're going to dominate the board. So for them to win against South Carolina, they're going to have to be making shots on the outside, especially when they're open. And AZ Fudge, she just comes back out off an injury too. That's going to be a big help as well. And Aubrey, she's gonna have to step up. Aubrey is gonna definitely have to step up. And Stanford is gonna be those two, the best combination in college. And on the women's side, the best combination. They're gonna have to step up. And I think they're gonna lack size as well. But Cameron Brent and Haley Jones, they done it before. They're gonna have to step up. But I still think South Carolina got the best. I still think they're dominant. Because of that combination and them being able to out physical their opponents and just oppose their will on the offensive glass, especially if you can't make shots against them.
Okay. So for women's, I completely agree with Coach Dante. It's like he went in my brain, pulled everything that I had out, and then said it. Like literally, those were the two teams I had. All the thoughts he said, so I don't need to repeat what the man already said. When it comes to men's, I completely agree with Jordan. It's all the brackets because the thing is, there's no dominant team, so it's who gets the right road is the only way we're going to see a champion from the men. It's more wide open than it was last year. Like any team, honestly, truthfully, any team that gets into the field could win. Obviously, there's a few that we like you really ain't gonna win, but for the most part, any team that gets in has at least a good chance of winning because it's just so wide open. It's crazy, but it's what you want from March Madness. So, I mean, we're going to get that this year. We're going to be surprised a lot. You do a bracket this year, you're going to be real ticked off probably after the first round, probably after the first few games. So, it's going to be exciting, but that's what I feel like we're going to have with the men's.
All right, cool. I'm going to pass it back off to you to wrap up, or if there's any other topics that you want to throw out before we wrap up.
Oh, so now you're throwing it back to me. No, I'm just kidding. Oh no, man, I'm good, man. Coach Dante and Jordan, y'all got any last thoughts guys want to get out before we wrap things up?
No.
Nah, we good. We good up on that one.
All right, then. Stephen, do you have any last words that you would like to bestow upon us tonight, sir?
Told y'all last week the Lakers are making the playoffs. I don't know how deep we're going to go, but we're going to beat her.
So in response to that, this is the only thing, and I mean the only thing that I can say.
What's that? Playoffs? Don't talk about it. Playoffs? You kidding me? Playoffs? I just hope we can win a game.
Better than practice.
So with that being said, ladies and gentlemen, appreciate everybody who's watching live, everybody that catches the replay. If you haven't already, make sure you hit that subscribe button, that like button, and the most important button for your boys is that share button. We'll see y'all next week. More tomfoolery. We'll mix in some haberdashery. And who knows, even a little skullduggery. You know how we get down. Playcallers Sports Talk. I'll let you next week.